Maybe you first go into the slide mode.
Okay.
Slideshow mode.
Uh,
There is a button on top, slideshow.
you mean to go to slideshow? Is it now okay?
Yeah, it's fine, but there should be a button there to go into a full screen slideshow mode. No, you see the button next to record, home, insert, draw.
Next to the?
No, you see the button home, insert, draw, design, and then you keep going right, animations, and yeah, there is slideshow, yeah. And from beginning.
Okay. Thank you very much. Shall I start or?
Let me introduce.
Okay, thank you.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. On behalf of Center for Peace and Global Studies, I welcome you all to our 21st monthly lecture. Our guest speaker today is from Serbia, Ms. Lejla Delagic, and she will be speaking to us on living Islam in Serbia. Just a quick introduction of Ms. Lejla. She is a PhD student at the College of Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, International Islamic University of Malaysia. She holds degrees in Islamic theology. She is currently doing research on Islamic identity among Muslim youth in Serbia. She also has published an article on human rights in the light of Maqasid al-Sharia. Now, today's lecture is being live cast on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Our Facebook page is www.facebook.com/globalcenterpeace. Our YouTube channel is www.youtube.com/@globalcenterpeace. As usual, in our lecture today, we shall have about 1 hour of lecture followed by any questions that you may have. You can ask questions by raising your hands or by writing them down into the chat window. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Lejla Delagic to speak to us. Please welcome her. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to express my thanks to Brother Ihsan and Center for Peace and Global Studies Pakistan for such great opportunity to join this event and present my thoughts about living Islam in Serbia. Once again, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, who provided me with ability and inspiration to write this presentation on Muslims and Islam in Serbia. I will start my today's talk with an introduction of what it means to be a Muslim in Serbia and what it means to live Islam in Serbia, being exposed to various problems, be it in social, cultural, political, religious, educational, or economic context. In order to get clear insights into the full picture of Islam and Muslims in Serbia, I will give the brief observation of historical background of Islam in Serbia and development of Muslim minority from the period that predates the eventual last 3 decades, with focus on the communist period from the end of Second World War to the 1990s, post-communist period from the early 1990s to the present, and then I will try to point out the current situation and problems that Muslims in Serbia face in their daily life. To be Muslim in Serbia means being minority. which by itself implies certain obstacles related to living Islam and preservation of Muslim identity, be it in regard to establishing the Islamic concept of life, or implementing Islamic teaching in his daily life, or getting correct Islamic education, distinguishing of ethno-national and religious identity, or persisting being Muslim. Being minority implies possibility of not being treated fairly as a major population in the country, which in the case of Muslims in Serbia, this means concrete examples of persecution and discrimination throughout history. Living Islam in Serbia is not easy, as Muslims in this country are exposed to multi-level challenges such as highly secularized values and media promoting immoral and perverted values. Moreover, Serbian nationalism and Islamophobia, particularly animosity towards hijab and Islam, is present throughout a larger part of Serbia, despite the constitution's guarantees certain religious freedom, equal freedom for education and employment, etc. In practical life, these rights are not fully represented. There is a limited Islamic religious education in this country. Islamic religious education is reduced only to one lesson of religious education subject weekly in public schools, and several Islamic kindergartens and madrasah, and 2 Islamic faculties. All this is further impeded by division of the Islamic community into 2 communities, creating confusion and a kind of repulsion towards religion. Territorially, Muslims in Serbia are not evenly distributed. Most of them live in the area of Sandžak, where Islamic way of life is much easier for implementation than in the rest of Serbia. Serbia is officially a secular country, with an active promoter of the so-called LGBT rights in the person of the Prime Minister. However, the opinion of the Serb Orthodox Church is valuable and highly esteemed by the government. There is a pro-West oriented society on the one side. Secular values are deeply imbued, especially among youth. The abundance of immoral places, pernicious impact of media that promotes all kinds of immoral and perverted values present big challenges for living Islam in this country. And there is a And there is a pro-Serbs oriented society on the other side, where the kind of animosity and even the hate towards Islam is present in most part of the Serbia, which traces its roots back to the period of the Ottoman Empire. In such an environment, you can hardly find a hijabi woman working in civil service, and kind of intolerance is visible, particularly in areas outside of Sandžak. Lack of knowledge on religion and awakening of national identity as a consequence of communism and recent wars in Balkans area brought a new confusion among Muslims in Serbia in terms of their identities, which is deeply rooted in non-recognizing of Muslims as a religious affiliation, but as ethnicity by the Yugoslav state since the Second World War. It is not easy to practice religion in the greater part of Serbia. Limited number of mosques and masjids in greater part of Serbia, except in Sandžak, making practicing of religion during daily life almost impossible. Muslims in Serbia are a minority. They make up about 4.2% of total population, the majority being Orthodox Christian religion. In Serbia also live other religious communities, yet with smaller percentage than Muslims, such as Catholics, Protestants, other Christian communities, followers of Judaism, Eastern, and some other religions. Muslims in Serbia originate from local population Islamized during Ottoman Empire. All the first contact with Islam in this demographic context was in early 10th century, when the first South Slavs who lived in the territory of today's Serbia converted to Islam. Since withdrawal of last Ottoman soldiers in 1912, Muslims in Serbia lived under very difficult conditions throughout history, being from time to time discriminated in every aspect and exposed to various forms of violence and systematic persecutions. Recent wars in the Balkans were one of the last attempts of such torturous and genocidal ideas toward Muslims in territory of ex-Yugoslavia. So we have period before Balkan wars. A large number of Muslim Albanians and Bosniaks from Sandžak, Montenegro, and Kosovo were forced to conversion or to leave to other territories that were still under the Ottoman army or were persecuted. Then we have period after Balkan Wars. After the First World War, a new state was formed, of which Serbia was a federal unit. It was called the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, established in 1919. I really apologize. And from 1929 to the beginning of Second World War, it was renamed to the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Muslims lived under very difficult conditions. They were discriminated in every aspect and exposed to various forms of violence and systematic persecution. According to census of population of Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, from January 1921, Muslims made up 11.22% of total population in whole kingdom, while on territory of Serbia, that was 17.62%. The next census of population of Kingdom of Yugoslavia in 1931 showed the percentage of Muslims in the whole kingdom as 11.20%. The state of Muslims changed to better with the new constitution of Islamic community of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, as religious education was introduced to the secular schools, and there were also Islamic schools. However, most of them were closed in 1939, and religious education was abolished in 1947. Then we have Second World War and communism. Breakup of Kingdom of Yugoslavia and arrival of communists in 1945 brought atheism and Sharia schools ceased to exist in 1946. During World War II, Muslims lived under tough conditions. Brutal massacres and persecution were committed by Chetniks and Ustashas, as well by occupying forces and communist partisans who were arresting and persecuting religious leaders and everyone who was against communism. Communists brought some changes in the methods of how population census was conducted related to religious and national belonging. Census of population in 1948 has been conducted only on national base, where Muslims were offered to declare as Serbs Muslims or Croats Muslims, which would mean they are ethnically Serbs or Croats, considering they did not have been recognized as a nation, rather they were pressured to declare as a Serbs or Croats. For those who could not accept declaring them as Serbs or Croats, the option undetermined Muslims was offered. And the aim was to force Bosniak Muslims to declare themselves as Serbs or Croats. It was an attempt of denationalization of Bosniaks and their alienation from their own faith, culture, and tradition. Although Serbs and Croats build their nationality on Orthodox Christianity and Catholicism, Muslims were not allowed to build a nation based on their faith. And according to Communist Party of Yugoslavia, the idea of existing of one nation based on same faith in regards to Muslims, Bosniaks was inconceivable. From the end of Second World War until 1919, Serbia was one of 6 federal units in communist Yugoslavia, and until from 1945 till 1963, and then changed its name to Social Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. And this period was also marked by several restrictions of religious freedom and persecution of Muslims, religious leaders, and intellectuals. Although religion legally was not forbidden, in reality was forcefully suppressed, imposing secularism and spreading brotherhood and unity. Unfortunately, a huge number of Muslims felt under the influence of communist ideology and atheism. However, majority of Muslims was struggling for their religious and national rights, while Islam forcefully became the main element of their ethnic identity. For Muslims in Serbia, the period between 1990 and 2006 was a most challenging period, as many Muslims, particularly in Sandžak area, were killed, abducted, imprisoned, and forced to migrate. The fact that Muslims in Serbia, from being more than 55% of the total population of on the eve of Balkan Wars 1912 and 1913, making up 28% after massive ethnic cleansing and massacres during wars, then in period after Balkan Wars, making up 17.62% within the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovens, and 11.20% within the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, to make up only 2.89% in 1991. It shows the results of repeated massive persecutions and resettlements of Muslims in this demographic context. Nowadays, Muslims in Serbia consist of few ethnic groups, such as Bosniak, Albanians, Goreni, Roma, Ashkali, Egyptian, and Serb converts, majority being of Bosniak ethnic group. The state of Serbia does not recognize Muslims in Serbia under this term as followers of Islam, but as ethnic group, which is consequence of communist regime in ex-Yugoslavia, of which Serbia was an entity until 1991. With the main aim of the denationalization of Bosniak Muslims and their alienation from own faith, culture, and tradition. However, this practice has continued till now and still causes confusion between understanding of religious and ethno-national identity among Muslims in Serbia. I will try to point out to the circumstances throughout history that contributed greatly to this confusion among large part of Muslims in Serbia in terms of identifying religious and ethno-national identity as the same, and to a large extent confusion between what is religious regulation and what is tradition of certain ethnic group. Such background could be considered as first aggravating circumstance for being Muslim and live Islam according to held understanding of its principles and teachings. Now I will turn to status of Muslims after Second World War. After Second World War, only census from 1953 covered both national and religious belonging in communist Yugoslavia, including Serbia, while census based on ethnicity was conducted every 10 years, till census from 1991, when Socialistic Federal Republic of Yugoslavia disintegrated. According to census of population by religion in 1953, Muslims made up 10% of total population of Serbia. During this time, status of Muslims national question changed several times. Muslims were recognized as ethnicity in census from 1971 as Muslims with capital letter M, while in previous censuses from 1948 as undetermined Muslims and from 1953 as undetermined Yugoslavs. However, Muslims in Serbia within different states of Yugoslav nations were never recognized under this name as followers of Islam, which is only correct meaning of the word Muslims. Muslim can be everyone, can belong to any nation, but it does not imply nation or ethnicity by itself. In context with this, Muslims in Serbia throughout history were recognized according to political needs and ideologies of the ruling state, be it in sense of ethnic entity or religious affiliation. The main reason why Muslims were not recognized lie in the fact that Muslims in Serbia and other 5 former federations of Yugoslavia never had their own federation due to the fact that all Muslims historically originate from Slavs people Islamized during Ottoman Empire, but never had mother state. Their national identity was supposed to be determined by the territory they live, which in case of Serbia is a very complex matter, considering an equivalent has been made between Serbs and those who belong to Serb Christian Orthodox Church. On the other hand, in censuses based on religion, Muslims were not recognized as such, but under the name Islamic confession. In absence of mother state for Muslims from Serbia to be named ethnically upon it, as well to support ruling states' territorial plans, they were forcefully labeled in ethno-national context as Serb Muslims or undetermined Muslims, undetermined Yugoslavs, Muslims in terms of ethno-national and not religious affiliation, and Muslims in terms of ethnicity. All this together with influence of communist ideology caused confusion among Muslims in Serbia regarding their religious and ethno-national identity that lasts until now. As a result, Muslims in Serbia are even now considered as Muslim ethnically. While regarding their religious affiliation, they are officially recognized as Islamic confession. Such labeling of Muslims as ethnical group should not be acceptable, as Muslims could be considered only as followers of Islam. And the table of population by nationality in Serbia, according to last census 2022, shows which ethnic groups are declared as followers of Islam. Here's the table. You can see how is this contradictory, because we have Muslims ethnically and we have Islamic confession. According to this list, Muslims, part of Muslims are Christians Orthodox, part of them are Catholics, one is Protestant, 6 belong to other Christian religions. We have also 121 atheists, non-declared and unknown, which is, it cannot be. A Muslim cannot be Christian, cannot be atheist. The Muslim are only followers of Islam. As for the religious communities of Muslims in communist Yugoslavia, the seat of the Islamic community of Yugoslavia and the office of the Reisul Ulema was in Bosnia's capital, Sarajevo. And with the breakup of Yugoslavia in 1991 and the beginning of the aggression of Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1992, in 1993, the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina decided to include within its internal organization several other Islamic communities whose believers were predominantly ethnically Bosniaks, and these communities were the Islamic communities in Croatia, Slovenia, and Sanjak. In line with the 1997 Constitution of the Islamic Community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Article 1, 3 meshihas out of the territory of Bosnia were parts of the Islamic community of Bosnia and Herzegovina. These were meshihas of the Islamic community in Croatia, Islamic community in Slovenia, and Meshihat of the Islamic community of Sanjak, Meshihat of the Islamic community in Serbia, named since March 2007 as autonomous organizational units, yet recognizing the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina as their mother community, and Reisul Ulema in Sarajevo, Bosnia, as their religious chief. Slobodan Milošević's incitement of nationalism in Serbia since 1987 led to the emergence of ethno-national parties in other Yugoslav republics, causing the collapse of the Yugoslav Federation and the rise of Serbian nationalist politics in 1991, which culminated in large-scale bloody wars in Croatia and Bosnia and genocidal ethnic cleansing of Muslims. Period between 1990 and 2006 was the most challenging for Muslims in Serbia. Many Muslims were, particularly in Sanjak, killed, abducted, and imprisoned, as I already mentioned. The most detailed documentation of various crimes committed against Muslims in Sanjak was done by investigative journalist and human rights activist Delagic, author of the book Sanjak Without Bosniaks, Criminal Plan of Greater Serbia, in which he chronologically described all the crimes, torture, reprisals, and terror by the official state authorities against Bosniaks in Sanjak as a direct manifestation of the morbid campaign of ethnic cleansing of Bosniaks in Sanjak. According to census from 1991, Muslims in Serbia made only 2.89, which was almost 4 times less than in 1953. Aside from the fact that results from Kosovo were not included in this census, and census from 2002 showed the number of Muslims in percentage of 3.20, and census from 2011, the number of Muslims slightly decreased to 3.10%. Now I will turn to status of Muslims in post-communist Serbia. In 2006, there were 2 important changes in Serbia related to national status of the country and status of Islamic community. The State Union of Serbia and Montenegro disintegrated, whereby these 2 federal units became 2 independent states. Regarding the Islamic community, existing internal disagreements culminated in the split of the community into 2, each claiming its legitimacy to represent all Muslims in Serbia. The state of disunity and mutual recrimination between these Islamic communities lasted until the present day, whereas recently split into 5 communities. Regarding the organization of all Islamic communities that currently exist in Serbia, the introduction would require more space that is beyond the scope of the presentation time. So in brief, There are two main streams, each further divided into smaller communities that differ in organizational matters related to the head office of the leading body of Islamic community, Belgrade, Novi Pazar, or Sarajevo. Regarding the status of Muslims in post-communist Serbia till now, it can be said that the state supports existence of number of Islamic communities and does not take actions against those who committed the acts of discrimination and persecutions of Muslims. Moreover, war criminals such as Ratko Mladic and Radovan Karadzic, who are responsible for the Srebrenica massacre, have been glorified by the Serb Orthodox Church, state, and the majority of the Serbs, be it through years-long denials of genocide of Muslims in Bosnia, as well, or painted murals with these two heroes, or glorifying songs. It is obvious what message is being sent to Muslims in Serbia. Ethnic cleaning of Muslims in Serbia was second part of this morbid plan initiated by Serb Orthodox Church and Serbian politicians, which would probably been accomplished if there was no Hague Tribunal and enormous pressure of the state of Serbia by the EU and the world. This slide shows the mural of war criminal General Ratko Mladic. The photo was posted under the news on online portal titled UN Voices Concerned over Serbian police protecting symbols praising war criminals. This symbol glorifying convicted war criminals should not have no place in the public space, said Trossel, spokeswoman for a UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Mladic and forces under his command were linked to the genocide committed in Bosnia, particularly in Srebrenica, Europe's worst atrocity since the Second World War, after Serb forces overran an enclave that was supposed to be under the protection of UN peacekeepers. This slide shows mural of Draža Mihailović. He was war criminal from Second World War next to the mural of Ratko Mladic. And the photo was posted in the news titled, groups of masked young men are on duty in Njegov Street next to the mural of Ratko Mladic, where Draža Mihailović mural also appeared. Mihailović was a Chetnik general from World War II, and during which Chetniks massacred thousands of Muslims. Both murals show the orientation of a greater part of Serb Orthodox. Next to the mural of Mladic is written, General, thank to your mother, and next to Mihailovic's mural is cited apart from the famous Chetnik song, All the Guards are All the Guards of Commander Draža. From these and all above mentioned facts about situation of Muslims and their percentage since the retreat of the Ottoman Empire, including several persecutions and resettlements throughout history, it could be concluded that there was sort of animosity and hatred toward Islam, Turks, and Muslims among Serb nationalists, whose influence was present and strongly impacted Muslim national rights and religious freedom, even during ruling of communists and their ideology that has been forcefully imposed. This is how Muslims in Serbia, from being majority of the population, gradually became minority in this country, and how living Islam became challenging for Muslims in Serbia. Then I would like to move to current situation of Muslims in Serbia. As I already mentioned, Muslims in Serbia are organized in several Islamic communities, mainly due to the fact that they are more ethnically heterogeneous than Muslims in any other ex-Yugoslav state. Present-day Muslims in Serbia hail from at least 7 ethnic groups. Majority are Bosniaks, followed by Albanians, Roma, Gorani, Ashkal, Egyptians, and recent reverts to Islam from other religions. The majority of Muslims live in the southwest area called the Sanjak, where Muslims of Bosniak ethnicity constitute the majority in 3 municipalities, and in 3 other municipalities of the same regions, Muslims make up sizable proportion in the overall population. Muslims of Albanian ethnicity make up the majority in several municipalities located near the border with Kosovo, such as Preševo and Bujanovac, and a significant proportion in Medveđa. Muslims also have visible presence in the capital city of Serbia, Belgrade, and in other urban centers. Also, as mentioned earlier, according to the last census of 2022, the total population of Serbia is around 6.6 million, out of which 278,212 are Muslims. In terms of percentage, it's 4.20% of the total population. However, there have been some serious inconsistencies between the preliminary and final results of the census regarding the number of Muslims. The highest religious representatives of Muslims in Serbia have claimed the number of Muslims in Serbia to be much higher than the official state figures. Interestingly, the 2022 census shows that there are about 525,000 people in Serbia whose religion is unknown or who decline to state their religious affiliation. The following slide shows a table of population by nationality and religion in Serbia. Total number of other religions, Protestants, other Christians, Judaism, other religions, you can see the number. Agnostic also. From total population, 86.6% are Christians and 4.2 are Muslims, or as stated in census, Islamic confession. According to this census, major ethnic groups among Muslims are Bosniaks, then Albanians, Roma, Muslims as nationality, Gorani, Serb converts, and others. Then we have also declared in terms of regional affiliation, not declared, and unknown regarding ethnicity, and declared as Muslims, Islamic confession in percentage of 2.56. Other ethnic groups of Islamic religion are not mentioned in this census. However, there is also a great percentage of population that is not declared or unknown regarding the religion. 7.89% of total population, among them Serbs, Roma, Yugoslavs, Muslims as nationality, Bosniaks, and etc. As there is a boycotting of census since 1991, it is assumed that most of these not declared and unknown are Muslims. And according to this census, 1.76 Muslims as nationality are Christians, 0.92% are atheists, and 4% among not declared and unknown, which is very unusual and almost impossible that Muslims can be Christians or atheists. The next section is language, method, and organization of Islamic communities. Official language is in Serbia is Serbian language, which is written in the Cyrillic alphabet called Cyrillica. Photo shows the Cyrillic alphabet. However, since 2001, Bosniaks in Serbia are allowed to use Bosnian language as their official language and write in Latin alphabet of Bosnian language. These two languages are quite similar, almost the same in terms of understanding and communication, yet in some aspects of grammar, vocabulary, and script, they are different. We understand, speak, and write in both languages without difficulty, and they look as one language to an outsider not familiar with them. Photo shows both alphabets. The majority of Muslims in Serbia are Sunnis and following Hanafi method, with minor part of Wahhabis and less part of Shias. No survey on the percentage of each group has been done, so the information is based on generally known facts. Today, the Islamic community in Serbia is organized into 4 muftiships, muftiships of Sanjak, Belgrade, and Novi Sad, and Muftiship of Preševo, which are currently headed by 3 muftis. Its executive body is the Meshihat of the Islamic community in Serbia, headed by a chief mufti, Mevlut Dudic, with office in Novi Pazar. Photo is borrowed from Meshihat's website. The rival Islamic community of Serbia today consists of 3 organizational entities, Serbian Meshihat, Sanjak Meshihat, and Preševo Meshihat. With headquarters in Belgrade, the executive body of the Islamic community of Serbia is Ariyasa, headed by Reisul Ulema. Reisul Ulema is the title similar to Grand Mufti in many other Muslim countries. Head Imam Adam Zilkic from Tutin, first from the left side, was elected as the first Reisul Ulema, and then Belgrade Mufti of that time, Hamdija Yusufspahic, second photo was pronounced, as a lifelong honorary Raisul Ulema of the Islamic community of Serbia, and the current Raisul Ulema is Senad Halitovic. Pictures are borrowed from the website of Riyasah. The two communities have been disputing each other's legality and legitimacy since 2007, occasionally with violent outcomes. The Islamic community in Serbia would like to stay formally connected to the Islamic community in Bosnia, while the Islamic community of Serbia wants complete independence. Certain deviations within Islamic communities caused establishing of different NGOs to attract Muslim youth to Islam and to ensure right distributions of zakat and other donations. Among them, NGOs with Yonik, where Mohammed Emirovic did a great job with Muslim youth in Sanjak, organizing various educative and humanitarian projects, Islamic lectures, providing scholarships for students, donating food and financial assistance for the needy, donating iftars during Ramadan, aid gifts for the youngest one, etc. So these were some main points on circumstances throughout history that shaped living Islam in Serbia today. And now I would like to move to following section on the crossroads between religious and secular worldviews. We are witnessing that the Muslim Ummah has been for a very long period on the crossroads between the religious and secular worldviews, especially in the countries where Muslims are minority, particularly in the Balkans, and Serbia is one of those countries. Building of Muslim identity as a minority is challenging. Living in non-Muslim countries surrounded by non-Islamic values and way of life, secular educational system and religious symbols of majority religion in the country is inevitable for Muslims in Serbia, especially for youth who is still looking for their identity. It is difficult for them to build correct Muslim identity while seeing various sorts of identities around them, from Orthodox Christians, atheists, to those that crossed over all borders of normal civilization, behaviors, and habits. Then we have secular values, different worldviews, and abundance of immoral places. Growing up in non-Islamic environments, often in irreligious families, and then being influenced by secular teachings in all levels of education, having friends who follow other religion and do not like Islam and Muslims are among the biggest obstructions in building of Muslim identity as minority, and growing up in such circumstances, distracting them from learning about Islam or adhering to Islamic regulation that are required for foundation of Muslim identity. In case of Serbia, where Muslims are not evenly distributed and most of them are concentrated in Sanjak, that means that those who live in other parts of Serbia in much less consistence are more exposed to these challenges. And being exposed to non-Islamic worldview and various vices in all aspects of their life makes establishing of an Islamic concept of life and implementing Islamic teachings in daily life not easy task for Muslims in Serbia. They are in certain way assimilated with the majority religion of Serbia, accepting their customs, celebrating some of their holidays, drinking alcohol, going to vice places such as disco clubs, casinos, and cafes, just to not be rejected from certain social groups, or performing mixed marriages, which remained a practice from communist Yugoslavia, where they are, in most cases, do not leave Islam at their homes or are alienated from Islam completely. Out of fear to not be rejected or expelled from certain social groups, Muslims in Serbia often assimilate with majority population, hiding their Muslim identity by ignoring Islamic regulations in front of non-Muslim friends. Then we have a pernicious impact of media promoting all kinds of immoral and perverted values, imposing such values to young Muslims as a normal, acceptable, and trendy. Beside that, the fact that Serbia has a proponent of LGBT in government, Ana Brnabić, who is obtaining the function of a prime minister, to a certain extent gives an example and role model to children in Serbia, both Muslims and Christian, that being different, lesbian or gay, is fine and acceptable in society, that on the other side has huge prejudice and intolerance towards hijab, proclaiming it is as backwards and oppression against women's rights. Then we have discrimination in various terms, getting proper Islamic education, With regards to the level of education of the Muslim community, there are several aspects to be viewed upon: basic education, university level education, secular or Islamic education. The basic primary education has been on a very high level for the centuries due to compulsory of primary schooling for everyone in the country. Thus, there is no illiteracy among Muslim community in Serbia, and everyone is required to attend primary school at the age of 7. However, the type of education in primary schools is based on secular curriculums, except the subject of religious education that has been introduced to primary and high schools educational system in 2002. This subject is officially offered for all religions, and for Muslims it is called Islamic religious education. Higher level of education, be it secular or Islamic, it is also on high level in our Muslim community, nowadays perhaps even more, as it was before, due to accessibility of scholarships and establishing of universities in Sanjak, which opened new possibilities for Muslim youth and made it easier to study in their environments close to their families, but also easier in terms to not be afraid how they will be accepted in the environments where the majority is non-Muslim population, especially for girls with hijab. As for Islamic education, Muslims in Sanjak area are in much better situation than Muslims in the rest of the country, although this changes frequently. Having Islamic education offered from the early childhood to faculty level, Muslims in Sanjak are kind of privileged regarding this. And since there are Islamic kindergartens within both Islamic communities, maktabs, and there is a lot of mosques, which is not the case in the rest of Serbia, then schools of the Quran, Islamic religious education course within public and Islamic education in private schools like madrasah and Islamic kulliyah, etc. However, despite of all these, it is important to mention that the number of Islamic institutions is still small and not all children are attending these institutions. And there is also a shortcoming in the continuity of Islamic education in terms that there is no Islamic primary school. Furthermore, religious education within maktabs, mosques, and Islamic centers exists only in certain cities, which causes kind of large disbalance in different territories of Serbia. And for example, Belgrade has only one mosque, Bayrakli Mosque, which does not present problem of maktabs education only, but rather a serious issues of non-existence of proper place for prayer for most of the Muslim population who do not live in Bayrakli Mosque's neighborhood. And positive side is that next to the Bayrakli Mosque is located Madrasa, Islamic High School, which is founded in 2001, and Islamic Kulliyah, founded in 2010. However, it should be worked more on the promotion of these Islamic educational institutions, to inform Muslim youth in Belgrade that such institutions exist in the middle of the city. Fortunately, our Islamic communities are aware of this problem, and recently they are working on establishing of Islamic centers, masjids, departments of madrasah in other cities in Serbia. Certain rights exist, but in practical life are not fully represented. There is a violation of equal rights, freedom for education. Islamic religious education is not offered the same way in all regions of Serbia. There are obstructions by school directors who are misusing law clauses for education of majority, ignoring positive discrimination law. In reality, this guaranteed right to have an Islamic religious education subject in all schools in Serbia is not easily applicable. This subject is offered in all schools in Sanjak, while this is not the case in the rest of Serbia. And the legal ambiguities that are left in the law while introducing this subject to the educational system of Serbia are often misused by directors of schools, allowing them to reject introduction of Islamic religious education subject, although there are Muslim children in that school. Those are usually some clauses about the required number of children from the same class groups, age groups, to form one full class for religious education. And having the full autonomy in making decisions, directors misuse that right, deciding to refuse religious education subject to be taught, despite the right to have this subject in all schools in Serbia. And despite the right that is guaranteed by the law, And of course, such cases are mostly in the parts of outside of Serbia where Muslims are very minority, while in Sanjak area where Muslims are majority or majorly mixed environments, such things cannot happen at all. Then we have a violation of certain religious freedom. Muslims in major part of Serbia, other than Sanjak, are more exposed to many other problems that are not directly related to education only, but rather to religious freedom of belief and practicing of Islam. Serbia Orthodox Church is highly esteemed, valued by the government, despite Serbia is officially a secular country. And according to the Serbia constitution, the country is secular and there is no state religion. However, Serbian Orthodox Church apparently has preferential treatment and kind of respect by the government. Impact of the Serb Orthodox Church on the educational system in Serbia could be seen through public schools curriculums that are losing epithet of secular by getting more and more religious contents of Serb Orthodox Christianity, as well in proclamation of Serbian Orthodox Saint Sava as a protector of schools in Serbia. Thus, there is imposed celebration of Saint Sava in schools for all students. Glorifying of this saint is taken as an official school day in all public schools in Serbia, and his picture is on the walls in all classrooms. Saint Sava was the founder of the independent Serbian Orthodox Church and its first archbishop. His Zakonopravilo, known as Nomocanon, was the first constitution of the state of Serbia and the Orthodox Code. I have a problem with the slides. Yeah, okay. In that code, Saint Sava cursed Muhammad alayhi salam and Islam, which with such contempt and hatred, ordering that Serbia must be cleansed of the unchrist. His genocidal idea towards Muslims has been implemented for centuries to this day. And Muslim children in Serbia today are forced to celebrate his glory as a school day and sing hymn, "Let us acclaim with love to Saint Sava, Serb church and school glorify him." Then I would like to move to introduction of Orthodox Christian religious content in public schools curriculums. According to changes in curriculums after 2000 suggested by Serbian Orthodox Church and approved by the government, Saint Sava is mentioned in compulsory literature for many subjects in primary public schools as national poems, Orthodox Christian church songs, history of Serbs, Orthodox Christian religious text in books for Serbian literature subject. Then World War II criminal Chetnik Draža Mihailović, whose paramilitary group killed more than 35,000 Muslims in Sanjak, is mentioned as a Serbian hero, which could be considered as forced assimilation and systematic discrimination of Bosniaks through educational curriculums from one side and desecularization and Christianization or Serbization of educational system in Serbia from another side. Then we also have kind of animosity towards hijab. Although this introduction of religious content by Serbian Orthodox Church was highly respected and accepted by Serbian society, Muslim girls or women who adhere to all religious regulations and wear the hijab in Serbia are not accepted with such respect. In most cases, they are facing rejection in the society, especially outside of Sanjak, even though in some parts of Sanjak, where Muslims are less than 50%, the cases of animosity and intolerance towards hijab were reported. Such case happened in Prijepolje, where Muslims population is about 47%, and there are not girls with hijab in any primary or high public schools, except in one private Islamic high school, madrasa. Namely, in 2015, director of the gymnasium, public general school, high school, Ljubomir Šuljagić, forbidden a student with hijab, a girl who covered herself after graduating, thus not during schooling, to attend diploma convocation. His excuse was that her clothes is not according to codex of school. And the case was strongly condemned by part of Muslim society in town, but unfortunately commented only by 2 online newspapers. According to my recent survey on wearing the hijab in Serbia, There are no girls with hijab in public schools in Serbia, except in few towns in area of Sanjak, where Muslims make majority of the population. Novi Pazar, Tutin, and Sjenica, and few students of madrasa in Belgrade, and one single case of student at a university level in Belgrade. Survey also showed that in many cases, Muslim youth who live in mixed environments are often rejected by certain social groups of majority religion if they reveal their Muslim identity or have been seen practicing religion. There is also limited number of mosques, masjids outside of Sanjak region. Practicing of religion in regions outside of Sanjak is very difficult, in some cases almost impossible due to limited numbers of mosques and lack of masjids. As already mentioned, Belgrade has only one mosque, Bayrakli Mosque, and lack of masjids in most parts of the town. This is serious issues for many Muslims in Belgrade who are practicing Islam, being unable to perform prayer during work or school. Moreover, there is no any shopping mall or public institution that has surah within, so there is no space to perform prayer in the town except at home or Bayrakli Mosque, and few masjids in particular neighborhoods far away from the center of the town. Another issue is difficulty to find halal food. Recently, there has been open halal agency and few halal food shops and restaurants near Bayrakli Mosque, but Belgrade is a big town and not all Muslims live in a neighborhood of mosques, as well as not all Muslims in Serbia have halal food shops in their city. It is worth mentioning that during the Ottoman Empire, Belgrade had about 270 mosques, and now is only Bayrakli Mosque left. The most beautiful and grandiose mosque was the Batal Mosque, also known as Einihan Bey Mosque, that was considered as Hagia Sophia of Belgrade, and it is destroyed by Serbian Prince Mihailo Obrenović, and today is on its place located National Assembly of Serbia. In many historical books or travelogues, it stated that Belgrade was a very beautiful town, the capital of Islamic culture and art, and all cities of Serbia had at least several mosques. For example, Leskovac was a 4,023 years Muslims town. However, 4.5 centuries of Islamic history of this city were destroyed as many other towns. This is the photo of Batal or Einihan Bey Mosque and National Assembly of Serbia on its place now. The next slide, this slide shows Bayrakli Mosque. The right photo shows Bayrakli Mosque damage after being set in fire on 18 March 2004. Dragana Nikolić Solomon stated that as the flames flickered through the stone walls on the 17th century Bayrakli mosques in Belgrade, the sound of Orthodox church music played surreally from a nearby car. A man appeared out of the clouds of smoke carrying a looted green flag with the crescent of Islam. Serbia has risen, he shouted. This clearly shows the level of animosity towards Islam in Serbia. Then we have Adhan. Sound of Adhan in Serbia is not that much welcomed in areas outside of Sanjak. Even in some cities in Sanjak, there were cases of complaints of local Orthodox Christian citizens on sound of Adhan as being too loud. Such case happened in Prijepolje, where municipality, as response to these complaints, ordered to Islamic community to lower the Adhan sound to certain level that cannot wake up people while calling for the morning prayer. Moreover, Serbian government requires the building of mosques without minaret, which is, according to previous Mufti of Islamic community of Serbia, Abdullah Numan, kind of discrimination. Here is the screenshot of Mufti Abdullah Numan in a video. Serbia's Muslim leader says discrimination is eroding his people's religious freedoms in the capital, Belgrade. The local government is accused of pressuring the Muslim community to build its mosques without minarets. The Mufti says it's trying to keep the highly visible towers out of the majority Christian Orthodox city. TRT Walls, Melinda Nusifora filled this report from the Serbian capital. Then we also have a violation of equal rights for employment. There are limited possibilities for employment for hijabi. Although there is no legal act declaring that Muslim women in Serbia cannot get employment in public institutions if she wears the hijab, in reality it is shown to be unwritten rule. In some parts of Sanjak, where Muslims are a very majority of the population, such things cannot happen, and there are many Muslims, women with hijab, employed in public institutions. However, in other cities of Sanjak, where Muslims are less than 50%, this is not the case. According to my survey, there are only 2 women with hijab employed in public institutions in Prijepolje, where Muslims made up about 47%. One is working in municipality, and another is as religious education teacher in public primary school. As for the rest of Serbia, outside of Sanjak, there are only 2 particular cases of women with hijab employed in public institutions on whole territory, and both cases are in Belgrade, capital of Serbia, and both close associates to late Mufti Zukorlic, and as a result of his coalition with the ruling party of Serbia. One of them was first woman with hijab that entered Parliament of Republic Serbia, Misala Pramenković, a member of the Zukorlić political party, SPP, and she was a member of parliament since 2020 to 2022. Another one is second spouse of late Muamer Zukorlić, Dr. Elma Elfić, who was the first woman with hijab in Ministry of Education, obtaining function of Assistant of Minister for the Promotion of Human and Minority Rights in Education. This is the picture with Dr. Misala Pramenković, the first member of parliament of Serbia with hijab. You can see how bombastic title of the news was first time in the history. The first member of parliament of Serbia with hijab. And the second slide shows photo of Dr. Elma Elfić, Assistant of Minister for the Promotion of Human and Minority Rights in Education, first hijab in the Ministry of Education of the Republic of Serbia. There is also discrimination regarding employment for Muslims, not only for hijabi. And there are also cases of discrimination regarding employment only due to being a Muslim. For example, the case of appointing a new director, an Orthodox Serb in public schools in Sjenica, where majority of population represents Muslims and where Muslims qualified for this function could not get employment in order to have control, particularly due to the fact that directors of schools have an autonomy in making decisions. Such decisions is also considered as disrespect of the national characteristic of the municipality of Sjenica, where the majority are Bosniaks, thus Muslims. And of course, this case is only one among the many others about the discrimination regarding employment for Muslims. And then I would like to move to section titled Confusion. And there is a sort of repulsion towards religion Islam caused by division among Islamic communities. Disunity among 2 Islamic communities in Serbia, as already mentioned, caused the confusion and kind of distrust among Muslims, which quite often results in distancing from Islam and fitting into society that is non-Muslim or anti-religious. Lack of Islamic authority who can be trusted and followed create confusion mostly among Muslim youth, seeing Islamic leaders accusing each other in a non-Islamic way and interfering in politics, which caused sort of disinterest and repulsion towards Islamic community and Islam. There is also an issue of confusing identities. The recent awakening of Bosniaks' national identity caused confusion among Muslims in Serbia in terms of their identity, both religious and national. The root of such confusion lies in the decades-long ignoring and denying of the existence of 2 different identities of Muslims in this region by the state of Yugoslavia and later state of Serbia. Through the forced declaration of these people ethnically as a Serb Muslims or Croat Muslims, and all this with the goal to create a greater Serbia, ethnically pure, without recognizing the existence of Bosniaks as an ethnic groups who religiously belong to Islam, who are by religious affiliation Muslims. Treating these 2 identities as one in a long term resulted in a huge misunderstanding and confusion among a larger part of Muslims in Serbia, being recognized only as Muslims nationally, not as Muslims by religious affiliation. Bosniak Muslims in Serbia did not have another choice to preserve their ethno-national identity apart from the accepting to being called Muslims rather than being called Serbs. Even in the current census of Republic of Serbia, Muslims are recognized by term Islamic confession regarding religious affiliation and by term Muslims regarding ethno-national belonging, as well as Bosniaks. This confusion is evident also by many academicians and researchers that deal with questions on ethno-national and religious identity of Muslims in the republics of ex-Yugoslavia, or Bosniak Muslim identity. There is also a lack of knowledge on Islam. Muslims in Serbia have different understanding of Islam and different levels of knowledge on Islam, and not all of them are fully aware of principles and regulations of Islam. Those who were born and raised in majorly Christian environments, in most of the cases, did not have opportunity to learn about Islam, being raised in irreligious families or families that had very little knowledge on Islam, and also being impacted by majority of society. However, this negligence of on religion is present among many Muslims who live in Sanjak too. Muslim youth is nowadays being occupied more by material things, more devoted to hanging out with friends and being disinterested in learning about Islam. Lack of knowledge of Islam is partly the consequence of communist ideology, since there are still those Muslims by name who are loyal to Communist Party. It's important to note that in regards to the level of religiosity and knowledge on Islam, Muslims in Serbia could be grouped in few categories. Those who are committed believers and adhere to Islamic teachings regularly, having comprehensive understanding of Islam. Those who are believers but do not implement all Islamic regulations in daily life, and those who are believers without practicing any or a few of pillars of Islam due to lack of knowledge, considering that avoidance of bad deeds and doing good is enough if you believe in Allah. There are also economic obstacles. I will just briefly mention this because the least developed municipalities are in Sanjak and Preševo Valley, and there are no any large state-funded businesses nor investment projects in these municipalities. According to the government allocates regular funds to the Serbian Orthodox Church, while some of other communities receive irregular funds, whereas the Islamic community does not receive any funds from the government, and both Islamic communities are self-financed. Then we also have political obstacles. We have a issue of constitution, majority rule. Serbia is highly centralized state. Since the majority of populations are Serbs, the government in Belgrade makes all important decisions. And although there are many ethnic minorities, they cannot make and implement decisions and policies. State of Serbs and others. The position of religious and ethnic minorities in Serbia is of secondary importance, since the constitution of Serbia states that Serbia is state of Serbs and other citizenships. Then we have a coat of arms of Serbia, the cross, the crown, and the headed eagle. National symbols of Serbia, such as national flags and coat of arms of Serbia and the national anthem, depict the symbols relevant to only Orthodox Serbs. The main symbols of coat of arms are the cross, the crown, and two-headed white eagle. Cross stands for Serb Orthodox Christian Church. The crown stands for the statehood. Most of it was monarchistic in nature, and two-headed eagle symbolized pagan notions of bravery and liberty. Officially, Serbia is a secular republic. However, due to tradition and importance of Serbian Orthodox Church, due to its tradition and historical significance, Serbian Orthodox Church has a powerful role within the state. All post-communist leaders in Serbia realized the weight of the Serbian Orthodox Church and took great care to nurture close ties with it. The Orthodox Church views Muslims as outcasts, people who left the religion of the ancestors because of their internal weaknesses and worldly gain. Several high-ranking officials of the Serbian Orthodox Church openly voiced their discriminatory views regarding Muslims, blessed Serbian army, hated war criminals, or denied genocide in Bosnia. For example, Irine, the patriarch of of the SOC stated in Petrova Crkva near Novi Pazar that the majority Orthodox Christians of Serbia have to exercise care in dealing with our brothers who renounced our ancestors' religion in an obvious attempt to point to perceived betrayal and sin when the local population converted to Islam. And moreover, he assessed the sentence of War General Ratko Mladic to life imprisonment as a devilish act committed by world powers. He told to President Vučić that Kosovo must not be alienated from Serbia and spread the genocidal ideas of Greater Serbia by declaring that Serbia is everywhere where Serbs live, while denying the genocide in Bosnia. Another high instance of veiled threats and insults was in the walls of former Archbishop of Serbian Orthodox Church in Montenegro and Philohie, who referred to violent attacks on local Muslims from the 19th centuries in order to force them to convert to their alleged original faith as something that has started but not fully carried out. Other high-ranking bishops of the Serbian Orthodox Church, such as Filaret and Vasilije Kačavenda, have openly rendered support to persons indicted for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Kačavenda congratulated Serb army on successful ethnic cleaning of Muslims in Srebrenica, celebrating with champagne, and Filohie was offering to another war criminal, Radovan Karadzic, sanctuary while he was hiding, and also was connected with war criminal Željko Ražnjatović Arkan. There are many proofs of connection of SOC with the genocidal war in Bosnia, primarily as the initiating and supporting body. Similarly, the SOC was supporting previous war in Croatia, whereas the same idea that Serbia is everywhere where Serbs live was promoted. Examples of few cases will be presented in the next slides. Archimandrite Filaret was photographed with a machine gun in hands with a Serbian paramilitary group next to the tank in front of Manasir Kogovina, near to Croatian places Kostanica and Glina. However, as this talk discussed the realities and challenges of Muslim minority in Serbia, the focus is more on happenings related to Serb Orthodox Church genocide Muslim relation. This slide showed the photo of the news in the newspaper titled "Who was Irene? Patriarch Irene?" The verdict against Mladic was the work of the devil. He denied the genocide and worked to break Bosnia and Herzegovina. This slide show screenshot of the video 60 minutes how Bishop Kačavenda celebrated the dawn of Srebrenica. The video was recorded at the beginning of the capturing of Srebrenica in July 1995. Ratko Mladic gave an order and Jivanović entered Srebrenica on July 11, 1995. Bishop Kačavenda was an ideological and spiritual leader, and this video shows how Bishop Kačavenda celebrates dawn of Srebrenica and congratulates the Serbian army on successful operation in cleaning on Antichrist, glorifying Serbian Orthodox Church and Christ. And there is also a transcribed excerpt from the video of his congratulation. And he says, "I want to congratulate the general and through you, the brave Serbian army and military leaders, and many of our obilic who are ready to flow and run away at every opportunity and stay in a terrible place in defense of eternal ideals, the faith of our Orthodox faith, the Serbian name, and our homeland, who bravely carry the cross of honor in order to receive golden freedom." Slide shows the photo from 100th anniversary of autocephaly of the Serbian Orthodox Church, celebrated in Belgrade, when Serbian Patriarch Irine and the President of the Republic of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, respectively were awarded with the Order of Saint Sava of the first degree by the decision of the Holy Synod of Bishops of the Serbian Orthodox Church. A Serbian member of the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Milorad Dodik, was also awarded with the Order of Saint Simeon the Mir Gusher. It is worth mentioning that President Vučić said that the order obligates him to fight for Kosovo and Metohija and to support our people west of the Drina and the Danube rivers in Montenegro and whenever they live. And after all, I hope the Serbdom and Serbs will become one and that the true will defeat lies, said President Vučić. So definitely, Serb Orthodox Church with its patriarch and archbishops supported and blessed war criminals and all these brutal crimes and genocidal wars in Croatia and Bosnia, and encouraged and blessed by their religious leaders. It is not at all surprised that Serbs possess such hatred and hostility towards Islam, which is deeply grounded in the Serb Orthodox Church books and nomocanons. The war in Bosnia is over, but the fire in their heart is still burning. A recent case which shows the sparks of this flame occurred on 5th January 2024 in the town of Priboj and Prijepolje. As was the case 2 years ago, there was loud singing, "It is Christmas, let us shoot at the mosques." They also screamed, "Where are you, Balije?" Balije is the derogatory name for Muslims. "Come out," the same way as the Arkan's military group Tigers shooted at the beginning of the war in Bosnia. The perpetrators were briefly detained by the police, but they were released after questioning. There was also no punishment for the perpetrators of similar acts in 2022. Then we have President of Republic, extreme nationalist. President of Republic, Alexander Vučić, spent most of his political life in Sovinist Party, whose leader was indicted for war crimes and was heavily involved in sending paramilitary troops in Croatia, Bosnia, and Kosovo. During that time, Vučić stated several pro-fascist statements against Muslims. Among them, the most famous one was stated in 1995 in the Parliament of Serbia, 9 days after the fall of Srebrenica, when he was a member of National Assembly. He said, "Kill one Serb and we will kill 100 Muslims." That is nowadays president of Serbia. And then we have a selective inclusion, Vučić's ruling party SNS skillfully ensures the political parties that represent Muslims minority in Serbia align their policy with that of his party. This is done by inviting these political parties to form various degrees of alliance, formal and informal. And when these parties enter the alliance with the ruling party, a handful of party officials get appointed into ministries and departments within the government, and they in return says to fight for the genuine right of their community just to prove the loyalty of the regime of Alexander Vučić. This phenomenon can be seen as selective inclusion to silence the voices of Muslims minority in Serbia, and at the same time to prove to international community and Muslim countries that the state of Serbia uphold the high standards of minority rights. In this context, we can understand the appointment of 2 hijabi Muslim women to high offices in the Republic. Then we move to Serbian nationalism, Islamophobia, and violent discrimination. Serbian society and state are not by no means free of Islamophobia and aggressive acts that stem from it, bearing in mind that the current Serbian leaderships, particularly the president, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the director of the Security Information Service, BIA, were holders of high positions and offices in the 1990s when genocide and other grave crimes were committed against Muslims in neighboring Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo, and within the territory of Serbia, the Sanjak. And the fact that these leaders have not renounced those crimes is in itself sufficient to point to the overall atmosphere Muslim minority face now and could face in the future. The most comprehensive reports about the degree of Islamophobia in Serbia, as well as in other European countries, can be found in annual European Islamophobia report published by SETA, a public policy think tank from Ankara, Turkey. The incidents stemming from the widespread Islamophobia within Serbian society, some of the incidents stemming from the widespread Islamophobia within Serbian society and the state not covered by the SETA annual reports are the following. In May 2017, the first week of Ramadan, local authorities demolished a mosque in Zemun Polje on the outskirts of Belgrade after Serbian police secured the area in a pre-dawn action on Friday, despite protests by local Muslims and Islamic clergy. The construction of the mosque had started in 2014, and the authorities claimed that the residents did not secure a construction permit Yet the imam in charge, Amin Effendi Zainulahu, stated that the permit had been promised to him. And then in January 2022, in the town of Priboj, where more than 20% of the population are Bosniak Muslims, some local Serbs celebrated the eve of the Orthodox Christmas, 6th January, singing "It is Christmas, shoot at mosques." The president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, promised that the perpetrators would be dealt with severely. However, a year into the criminal act, the accused were acquitted by the court. The Islamic community representatives said they would appeal the court decision. In January 2022, a few days after the aforementioned incident, and again in the town of Priboj, a group of Serbian police officers sung about their desire to repeat the genocide in Srebrenica using other Islamophobic words. The incident was recorded by one of them and posted on the social media. This also prompted a lukewarm reaction by the state authorities, and in the following weeks, it was reported that the perpetrators were transferred to other police stations away from the town of Priboj. On 20th May 2023, a police officer from an elite unit killed a Bosniak Muslims in a cafe in Priboj. The accused was arrested a week later in Bosnia, and the case against him is pending in court. In 2022 and 2023, numerous reports of Muslim women with hijab have been made against the security staff at 3 international airports in Serbia, in Kraljevo, Niš, and the capital Belgrade, that have selectively targeted the Muslim women and subjected them to security body search. The Islamic community authorities have voiced their strong condemnation of such acts, yet no decisive action has been taken by the government of Serbia. And then we have cases of the beating and torturing of Sanjaks Muslims during the war in Bosnia. Beside these reports, there are also cases of the beating or torturing of Sanjaks Muslims during the war in Bosnia by the police, political processes, intimidation, and resettlement of Muslims in the border area with Bosnia, especially in municipality of Priboj, kidnapping, killing, and shelling of the villages, individual killing, robbing, and burning of houses, and various repressions that are mentioned in different sources. Some of the brutal cases that was never punished are shelling of the village of Kukurovići, a kidnapping in Strpci, kidnapping in Sjeverin. Shelling of the village of Kukurovići. On February 18, 1993, members of the Užice Corps of the Yugoslav Army were shelling the village of Kukurovići, whereas 3 elder people, 2 men and 1 woman, were killed in horrifying sufferings, and the whole village was burned. Men were burned in home, hit by shelling, while old woman was first raped, tortured, and then killed. A kidnapping in Strpci on February 27, 1993. 20 passengers was hijacked from the train number 671 that traveled along the route Belgrade-Bar and the train station in Strpci. At the train station in Strpci, a bit difficult to pronounce. Among them, 18 were Bosniaks, 1 Croat, and 1 person of unknown origin. They were taken because they were not Serbs upon checking their tickets and ID cards. They were taken by military group, while 10 police officers were watching that without any reaction. All these abducted were tortured and later killed. For a long period, it was unknown what happened to them, but after one of the perpetrators revealed the truth, the remains of 4 people have been found so far. And then we had kidnapping in Sjeverin on October 22, 1992. 17 passengers of Bosniak nationality were abducted from a basin on the line Priboj-Rudo by military group Revengers. It is assumed that they were first tortured in Camp Vilina Vlas in Visegrad and then killed. According to Jemail Halilagic, Chetnik's General Vojislav Šešelj revealed Serbian plan about cleaning from non-Serbs in the border zone at a depth of 30 kilometers, and that plan is still implementing. And Halilagic is from Priboj, a municipality near to the border with Bosnia. And actually, the village of Strpci that partially crossed the border of Bosnia is within the municipality of Priboj, which was exposed to massive persecutions of Muslims by the Chetniks during the Second World War. And villages Sjeverin and Kukurovići Kurovići are considering also on the very borders with Bosnia, and the crimes committed in these villages are recognized by the state of Serbia as crimes committed on the territory of Bosnia by the paramilitary groups, despite both villages are on the territory of Serbia, and the fact that village of Kurovići was shelled by Užice corps of the Yugoslav army. Delagic points that Bosniaks of Priboj are in the most difficult situation among all other municipalities in Sandžak. There was a case of police singing chanting songs and threatening Bosniaks who were punished with temporary transfer to another location, yet his research is focused on persecutions and tortures of Bosniaks, more oriented on ethno-national identity of Muslims in Serbia. And according to Meša Brničanin and statements in the book Usud imena, written by Meša Drastider, the kidnapping instruction was planned several months earlier, and police and military officials were informed about that plan. So wrote Saida Mustajbegović for Al Jazeera Balkans. From 20 abducted passengers, 11 were from Prijepolje. This is my town. And municipality near to Priboj. Serbia has never prosecuted the perpetrators, and if one of them was not revealed the truth, the families of kidnapped people will never know that they were killed. According to his testimony, the kidnapping and assassinating was performed by members of the intervention troop of the Visegrad's brigade of the Serbian army. They were never punished for this crime, which according to many journalists and historians send a message that such crime is not punishable. And for Delagic, such ignoring silence from the state of Serbia represent an overture for new genocide, as wrote Mustajbegović. There is an assumption that both crimes in Srpci and Sjeverin were organized by the head of the state. It is said that crime was committed by paramilitary groups called Revengeros, but the fact is that this group was a regular military group of Serbian army, as claims publicist Šeki Radoncic for Al Jazeera Balkans. Both crimes were performed by the Serbian army, and victims were Bosniaks, Serbian citizens. Thus, this was obvious crime of the state toward their citizens. Although Muslim minority in Serbia officially has the same rights as other citizens of the state, the above mentioned circumstances and reality are realities. Unfortunately, they cannot be forgotten or forgiven. Rather, they should be kept in our minds as a reminder of an overture in new genocide that was systematically planned by the state authorities, a genocide of Muslims in Sandžak in Serbia. Luckily, this had not happened due to EU and world's pressure on Serbia regarding the committed genocide in Bosnia, but that does not mean that it cannot ever happen, considering the roots of this morbid ideology and desperate desire for revenge to Ottoman Turks, that it has been passed down from generation to generation for centuries. As Ratko Mladic said before genocide in Srebrenica, after the rebellion against the Dahis, the time has come to take revenge on the Turks in this region. So we came up to the end of this talk and the conclusion. Living in a non-Muslim environment within other religious customs, traditions, and symbols, as well within worldview that completely reject religion, like non-believers, atheists, communists, and various kinds of deviating population groups, influences religiosity of Muslims in Serbia from one side, abundance of immoral places and brutish modern media and social media pressure on the other side, rejection in the society, especially if you are practicing religion or wearing the hijab on the third side, difficulties to fulfill ibadah during working hours or finding halal food on the fourth side, and finally, the above mentioned disunity among Islamic communities that causes kind of distrust among Muslims, which quite often results in distancing from Islam and fitting into society that is non-Muslim or anti-religious on the fifth side, coexistent with Islamophobes and initiators and perpetrators of genocidal war in Bosnia on the sixth side, as well as the helplessness and the inability to make steps towards changes and solutions to fight these temptations are some of the major realities and challenges that Muslims in Serbia are facing nowadays. When someone reads about Serbia or visits Serbia, at first glance, it would probably look like Muslims in Serbia do not face any issues. and that they have the same rights as all other citizens in the country, fully enjoying religious freedoms. However, after listening to all these above-mentioned facts, someone would probably say that is horrible, that is chaotic, everyday torturing, etc. And yet there is no chaos every day. There is no an open animosity every day in all situations, because the EU and world powers reacted, pressured, suppressed after horrible and morbid genocide in Bosnia. Yes, Muslims in Serbia are not being tortured and killed every day, but the above-mentioned innocent brothers, fathers, sons, mothers, sisters, and daughters were persecuted only because they were Muslims. And that happened in Serbia in peace during the war in Bosnia, committed by the Serbian army and planned, blessed and encouraged by Serb Orthodox Church, planned and approved by the Serbian state. So leaving Islam in such an environment, whose greatest plan of ethnically clean Serbia was luckily not thwarted, for those Muslims who are aware of it, is not easy. For those Muslims who are not aware of these facts and truth, living Islam in Serbia would be presented as easy, nice, comfortable, and safe, as they enjoy celebrating Eids and saints together with their Orthodox neighbors, drinking alcohol on Eid celebrations after fasting Mubarak Ramadan, as they still believe in brotherhood and unity, being at the same time Muslims, trying to be at the same time Muslims, communists, atheists, and modern people. Personally, I'm not against coexistence and interreligious dialogue, and I do not say we should not live together and communicate in a nice manner. We live together, and we have Orthodox friends too. However, what happened during the Bosnian War and what still happens is something that cannot be forgotten. Awareness and remembrance make us feel distrust and fear that such things can happen again. And this, together with other challenges that Muslims in Serbia are facing daily, is making living Islam in Serbia not easy. Thank you very much for your precious time, and may Allah bless you.
Jazakumullah khair, sister, for a very informative session. A topic, something that we do not listen about or hear about every day. Lots of new things, and I've seen a lot of thank you from in the chat as well from our participants. If there are any quick questions, we have only 7 minutes left. I think there's one in the chat window from Muhammad Jalaluddin. He did treated Muslims cause Serbia were slave in World War I. Russian under Putin changed his mind towards Muslims as their ally. In this scenario, contribute benefit towards Serbian Muslims. Our English is not very coherent.
I would like to have this question to be able to read it, because I couldn't understand everything. What is actually the question? Perhaps you can share my email, and the questions could be sent to my email, and I can give answers how much I'm able to answer it.
Okay, Muhammad Jalaluddin, would you like to ask questions yourself?
So Sajjad, until he asks anything, let me ask Sister Lejla a question.
Yeah.
Maybe I have missed some part of your lecture, but did you mention anything about media or Islamic literature, any role of Muslims in these two fields?
About media, about bad impact of media on a Muslim.
No. Any media, Muslim contribution in the media, if they have any channels or anything like that.
No, I have not, because I have more material, but because of time for presentation, I haven't put in this paper to present everything. Maybe some another time.
And if may, I request you for another favor, that it sometimes make very much complex for we people from the outside. We are not from the region or not among even in Europe. So the situation of Yugoslavia, sometimes they are merging, sometimes there are different states coming out. So
Yes.
in the current situation, if you can just brief us in a few minutes, how many countries are now there, and the Muslim community is there for just a layman like us?
You mean in Serbia or in
No, no,
ex-Yugoslavia?
to the whole region, that just like
To
the
the whole
whole.
region. I'm not sure now. We have Serbia, and we have two official Islamic communities that split in smaller parts, smaller communities. Then we have Bosnia and Herzegovina, an Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is head of one of the Islamic communities in Serbia. And then we have Islamic communities in Croatia, Islamic community in Montenegro, and
And
I'm
their
not.
ethnicity, and their
Excuse me.
in their ethnicity, which ethnicity they belong, which are they are Bosnian, or yes, their nationality is now Serb or Croat, or but
There is a problem with nationality, because Muslims in ex-Yugoslavia, we cannot say that all Muslims are only Croats or because, as I said, for example, for Muslims in Serbia, they hail from the several ethnic groups. So the situation is the same in ex-Yugoslavia completely. We have Bosniaks, Muslims from Sanjak in Croatia. We have it also in Montenegro, because even Sanjak was before a part of Montenegro, Bosnia and Serbia. But with the disintegration, yeah, everything changed. And we left only within the borders of Serbia. I hope I give at least I managed to answer.
yes, you made it a bit easy for us. Still complex, not so.
It is very complex
Yes,
because
yes.
it was before one country with 6 republics, and we have family, for example, in Bosnia, we have family in Croatia, we have family in Montenegro, and now we are all separated and families left there. So that can give a bit fuller insight into the ethnicity and ethno-national question of Muslims in ex-Yugoslavia.
Hey, Jazakumullah khair. We have come to the end of our today's session, and many thanks for your time and the information that you have given us. And I thank you every participant for their attendance today. Just to remind that we hold this lecture every week, every last weekend of every month. Usually it's Sunday. And inshallah, we'll come back to you with another interesting lecture by the last weekend of next month. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much. May Allah bless you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.